All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you again, Lisa, for having me. Thank you all for, having me. I'm glad to be here. This is awesome. When Lisa contacted me, I was really thankful. So here we are today. We're going to get started. We're going to help each other because if I forget something, you're going to tell me because there are a lot of ingredients on this recipe. And you all know I don't measure. I kind of go with the flow, but I am going to try to stay within the recipe. And this dish is called vegetable paella because one, we are not in the Valencia region. Two, many of us may not have a paella pan. Three, we are not cooking with chicken, rabbit, or what was the other thing? Cuttlefish. I think that was another one, cuttlefish. And I think there's a fourth reason. But at least those are the top three why this is called paella. So if we were over in Valencia and we were having it with seafood, that would actually be the touristy food down by the coast because traditional recipes, there's no shellfish, which I was surprised. And the other part of the traditional recipe is there is no chorizo in paella, traditional paella. So we are going to have what I would like to term a plant-based dish. And it starts with, the flavor profile starts with these wonderful saffron threads that we got in our box. Oh, I mean, they're just beautiful. Now this I did use an actual teaspoon for because, I don't want to waste it. So right now, if you have your saffron and you have a small bowl, measure out 1 teaspoon of the saffron. You'll know what it is. It doesn't look like the smoked paprika because they're actual threads. And then you're going to get some warm water. Even if you have like some warm tap water, that's fine. And about 3 tablespoons to make your saffron broth. And we're going to let that steep for a little bit. Earlier we were talking about saffron, and I mentioned that saffron is actually used as a tea as well. So it makes a lovely floral fragrant tea that you can combine with some cardamom and maybe some black tea or some rooibos or something like that. But it's just a very nice, pleasant, mild tea. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take your amazing cooking onion that hopefully you received in your packet, and we're going to simply dice it. Now, paella starts with what's called a sofrito, which is similar to the Holy Trinity, which we have in Creole cooking or Italian cooking as well. But this sofrito is specifically made with onion, garlic, and red peppers. And sofrito, you might have seen it in a package in some of the restaurants under some authentic cooking aisles or cooking ingredient aisles. But sofrito is basically the mix of these 3 vegetables. If you've ever made gumbo, you'll know that the trinity is green pepper, onion, and celery. That's the trinity. But this is the basic sofrito. So we're going to dice this up. We're going to put it in our pan. Question?
Are you using the whole onion there, Chef?
Yeah, I probably will because I like onion. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't matter if you have too little or too much onion. Onion is going to just either be a pronounced caramelized flavor or it'll just be a nice subtle flavor depending upon how much you use.
Great. And I like to encourage anybody who has a question, just chime right in. It's very interactive. It's not, if you fall behind, just let us know to slow down. We're please. At your pace, please.
Yes, let me know if I'm going too fast. So I'm just using a regular pan. It is not a nonstick pan. It's just a regular steel pan. It has a thick core. If you don't have a paella pan, that's okay. We're going to work with what we got. So in order to make the dice for the onion, I already peeled it. I cut both ends. I'm just going to cut it in half. Flat side down because I don't want to cut my fingers by having something roll away on me. I'm going to cut with the grain or across the grain actually. And I'm gonna make about a medium to a large size dice. I'm not gonna do a fine dice this time because it is a vegetable dish, so you wanna know that there are vegetables in it. Then I'm gonna cut across. There is another layer of skin. So if you're having a hard time kind of keeping your onion together, it's because you have another layer that's a little kind, not rubbery, but is almost turning to the skin of the onion. Go ahead and peel that off. You don't have to keep that on there. Don't fight with your food. Don't fight with your ingredients. If you're fighting with it, it's telling you that it doesn't belong. So now I've already made a cross section here to kind of start my dice. And then I'm just going to slice it with the grain, with the roll, with the cut. The butt of the onion you can toss, or you can actually keep in a little plastic bag. If you ever make stock, like chicken stock or beef stock or something like that, keep it in the plastic bags along with the peels, throw it in your freezer. And when you have a leftover roasted chicken and you have the carcass, throw that carcass in a pan with some onion peels, some onion skins, some celery and some carrot, some garlic, some bay leaf, maybe a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar or regular vinegar. Bring it to a very low boil and let it go for a couple hours. You'll have amazing stock.
Dr. Sarah Bowman was showing off her chicken a second ago. You missed it, Chef. Oh, there it is again. There it is again. She's ready.
Yeah, we make stock about once a week. So doing exactly
so you know
what
already. So I'm going to do the other half of my onion. Is everybody keeping up?
Everybody's looking good, Chef.
Awesome. Yeah, let me know because I'm not going to be able to see everybody.
Why are you not crying? I'm crying already.
So when it comes to onions, there are a couple of things that you want to think about. So if you are crying, the one thing that might be happening is either one, your knife is not sharp enough and it's kind of breaking the cells of the onion instead of slicing it. So it's kind of tearing it, which making those allium scents go everywhere. Or your onion tends to be a little old, or you just don't like that onion scent. So if that's the case, after you peel your onion, keep the root bulb on. Don't cut that. Don't cut that off. Keep that on, peel it, cut it, keep it intact, and just slice up to this. That way, you know, some of those fumes will be minimized. The other way is if you cut the onion, you keep the root bulb on, and you still notice it's very effervescent. Throw it in a bucket of ice water and let it sit for a little while, and then take it out and cut it. Or just stick your head in the freezer. You'll be all right. All right. So my onion is cut. I'm going to the red pepper. I've already washed it. I just use, because of the time that we're in, I actually washed it with soap and water because it's pretty tough skin. And then I soaked it in vinegar just to make sure any pesticides that are on it are off and ready to roll. And I'm going to cut this in a way where I'm going to keep the core of seeds intact because I don't want seeds all over the place and I don't want them in the dish. So I'm going to use this as a guide. So I'm basically going to cut right on the hill or the top of the red pepper so I don't slice into the seeds. Can you see me?
Yes.
So just like that. See, I sliced the pepper, no seeds came off. I'm gonna do that on the other end now that I can see the inside of the pepper. I'm holding the pepper steady so it doesn't slip on me. I'm gonna do it with all sides. Oh, I got some seeds there, but they came off very nicely. I just dumped them onto a napkin. And then I'm going to do the last section. And Now, any additional pepper, because this is a nicely shaped one, just kind of trim off. You can cut this part off as well, the very top that was missed. This you could put it in your stock. I tend to not put pepper in my stock, only because it sometimes can give an off flavor. Now the peppers also have something called the pith, which is very similar to like a zest, like on a lemon or a lime. So I'm just going to cut off the white pith, because sometimes that can create a bitter flavor from your pepper. All right, now we're going to cut the pepper the same size as the onion. When you cut pepper, I know I said make sure you have the flat side down, but in the case of the pepper, you want the skin side down on the cutting board, because it's very tough to cut through, even if you have a sharp knife. So you want to cut the flesh part first. You want it to be easy to cut. You don't want it to be difficult to cut. So that's why we're cutting the skin part. Also, let me know if I'm going too slow. I don't want to be, I don't want to be the tortoise and the tortoise of the hare, and you all are ahead of me. And like I said, the recipe does say finely sliced or thinly sliced, but this one, I'm dicing these because we have some other designs or other ingredients to put on the paella. You can thinly slice it, almost just kind of like to make a decoration with your paella and to give it to some character. So you can dice it or slice it. I told you, I may or may not follow the recipe. So stick with me. But if you do this already, follow the recipe. Yes?
We're learning some great skills there, though, Chef. That's a great, unique cutting way that I've never thought about how to cut a pepper. So that's great.
Yeah, it does make a difference, because it's so hard to cut. You could really hurt yourself if you try and cut the skin, because you're forcing. Remember, if you have to force something, then it's not right. You want it easy. That's the same thing with the kitchen. Everything in the kitchen should be nice and easy and simple. And hopefully this is a recipe that you'll add to your, recipe deck and keep it on hand, because, it's something very nice and simple. With it being the vegetable paella, you can easily modify this to create a chicken dish or a sausage dish or even a seafood dish. It's very, very adaptable. All right, so our pepper is cut. Now we need to cut up some garlic. And this says about 3 garlic cloves. So if you have some small ones, feel free to add more. If you don't like that much garlic, then don't use that much garlic. Only use 1 clove or 2 cloves.
Jeff, can you tell us a little bit more about your artistic family? Because a lot of these folks haven't been on the first class, and I love your sweatshirt, number 1. That's what made me think about it.
Yes, we are just extremely dope. So we are a household, a family of creatives. I'll start with the youngest. My youngest is a visual artist and a sneaker customizer. He customizes sneakers. So he paints on them and he creates murals, and, he's just an all-around artist. My oldest son he's in college. He is a barber and a real estate agent, getting his degree in business administration. My husband is a visual artist. He is one of the artists for the Freedom Wall here in Buffalo, New York. And he's created so many murals, maybe about 3, 4, 5, 6 murals around Buffalo and Niagara Falls. And right now he's a current MFA student. And our website, where we sell some of our clothing and apparel, is called www.eatoffart.com. because eating, one, I'm a chef, a jewelry artist, and a visual artist, but we have kind of, through our platforms and through the work that we do, we strive to change the narrative from a starving artist to a thriving artist. So thus the name Eat Off Art. So that's who we are. And we are just extremely dope, spells out our last name, but it applies to a lot of creatives.
That's awesome. Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. So yeah, so this cooking, the pandemic has really allowed us to kind of hone in and, you know, extend everything that we've been doing and sharing it with everyone. So we're really excited about that. Okay, how's everybody doing? You have all of your onions, peppers, and garlic cut, because we're gonna head on over to the stove.
It's looking good here, Chef, from my vantage point.
All right, we're heading over. And hopefully you have your mushrooms ready. Those beautiful shiitake mushrooms. All right, so now we're gonna heat up our pan and get that ready. I'm turning it on medium heat to start. And I'm going to add the oil to the heating pan. I know sometimes people will put the oil, the cold oil, in the pan and then heat it up. I like to heat up my pan first.
And just to remind everybody, at the end, we need some photos sent our way of your finished dishes, because we like to post them up on our social media pages later.
Yes. And we're using a 1/4 cup of oil, which is about 2 ounces. Seems like a lot of oil, but it kind of helps with everything in order to get it cooking, and it helps with that sofrito. And we're not going to put anything in until our pan is hot. And you can check with your hand hovering over your pan to see if it's hot enough, or when you start seeing the ripple of the oil on your pan. And I have one of those stoves that has a really a quick boil burner, so that's the one that I'm on. So I have to be mindful of that, because sometimes my things can overcook if I use this burner. But it gives the best vantage point for cooking. So my pan is just about hot and my oil is just about ready. So I'm taking my onion, hearing the nice sizzle. At this point, I actually salt my onion because, one, I like to layer the flavor when I'm cooking. So I don't like to just season at one point during cooking. I like to season in layers so that the flavor builds upon itself. So I'm adding some salt for that reason. I'm also adding salt because it helps the onion cook just a little more evenly. So I'm not going to touch it for a minute. So over here at this station, I have my peppers ready to go. I have the shiitake mushrooms ready to go. I have my garlic that I already chopped up. I have my spices, the smoked paprika and the thyme. And I have black pepper, of course, the salt. I have the bay leaves, wine. I have my rice. I have my chickpeas, my tomatoes, my stock. And I also have the green peas and the artichokes over here. One thing, you do need a lid for your pan. If you don't have a lid for your pan, that's okay. We'll talk about that. Let me know if you don't have a lid. And if you have a lid, it should fit nicely over your pan, like this. If it doesn't, that's okay. Because some chefs actually say you're not supposed to lid your paella because sometimes it changes the texture of the rice. People say you don't want risotto, you want paella. It's not the creamy, you're still supposed to see those textures or the grains of the rice. So they're not supposed to be clumpy like risotto. They're supposed to be nice and kind of separated, so to speak. So there are a lot of tropes around this paella. I was doing some heavy research because there's just so many things, if you're actually going to call it paella, that you have to do in order for it to be authentic and true. So I'm just going to take my spatula and just make sure I'm stirring the onions at this point to make sure they cook evenly. Ooh, I hear some sauteing going on. All right, so those are gonna cook just for a moment. You want it almost to the translucent point because then we're gonna add in our peppers and cook it down a little more, and then the garlic, and then the mushrooms. Or maybe we'll add the garlic after the mushrooms when we add the thyme and the smoked paprika.
It's a creative process.
Exactly. You know how I am in the kitchen, Lisa. I'm just like, oh yeah, sure, we'll add a little bit of this. Oh, maybe we'll add a little bit of that. Maybe we'll switch it up. Remember, you gotta feel it. And since this is a dish from Spain, it's like you really have to feel it. We should have some music playing and a big, wonderful glass of wine as we're sipping, you know, the good stuff. So at this point, I'm adding the red pepper. And then with the addition of the garlic, that is the sofrito. So many people will actually make sofrito in advance and keep it in their refrigerator. So if you ever want to add it to rice dishes or vegetable dishes or to your beans or your soup, you always have it ready to go. So people will take it and maybe put it in a blender and or a food processor and chop it very finely and then saute it with all the flavors and any other seasonings that they like, and then let it cool and then put it in a jar and keep it in their fridge. Another sofrito or trinity you could use in that way is onion, garlic, and ginger. Again, process it, heat some oil, cook it up, add some seasonings if you like, let it cool off, throw it in your refrigerator, and you have like an automatic seasoning packet that cuts off maybe about 5 to 10 minutes of your cooking, because you don't have to worry about chopping. You don't have to worry about sauteing and seasoning. You can literally just throw it in something, even eggs, and have it just wonderful. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add in the mushrooms because I'm going to follow directions a little bit. Now the mushrooms are going to take a couple minutes to cook because you do want them brown or at least cooked through. I'm just tearing them. You don't have to. I just want to see what this will do. Some people don't like mushrooms if they see them because they think they don't like the flavor of mushrooms. But I actually say if you don't like the flavor of mushrooms or the texture, then maybe you're not cooking them right. Mushrooms contain a lot of water. So if you cook them and it's meant to be like a soft or a sauteed dish that doesn't have a lot of liquid in it, there's a particular way you need to cook mushrooms. For this dish, we're creating our broth with our onions and our pepper, and we're gonna add the mushrooms. So we're not frying them hard. So they don't really have to be nice and caramelized. If I were cooking mushrooms for pizza, I would have a high heat pan, oil. I would put the mushrooms in, and I would like fry them, let them sit, not stir them, let them fry on one side, and then kind of turn them, because that way you get a nice caramelization on the mushrooms. And never add salt when you're cooking your mushrooms if you're making them like the star of your dish or a vital component to your dish, because you're going to end up boiling the mushrooms and creating a lot of liquid, and they're not going to taste good, and their texture is going to be chewy, almost like spongy.
Chef, the best way for mushrooms is with wine. I understand.
Yes. Hello. Yes. Cooking with wine is like number one.
I didn't measure my mushrooms. Was our bag 8 ounces or was it way more than 8 ounces?
It was 8 ounces by weight.
Okay.
Next time you make this, if you want to use more mushrooms, you can definitely add more mushrooms.
It was more like, it was more 8 ounces by Lisa's guesstimation.
Oh. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. So we'll have a hint of mushroom in this dish. And if you wanted to, what you could do also, I didn't cook the mushrooms first this time because we're cooking with liquid. And if I were to do that, it would kind of defeat the purpose of cooking with mushrooms if I cooked it first, because the liquid would just rehydrate the mushroom, so to speak, and ruin that beautiful crust that you have. So I'm adding in the garlic. It should be smelling amazing in your kitchen right now with the pepper and the onion and the garlic. One thing about onions to be mindful of, there's several stages of onions. I hope I said onions. There's several stages of cooking onions. The first is kind of like the raw saute stage where it's still kind of white. The next is the translucent stage, like if you want to, build a flavor. And then the third and beyond is when you start caramelizing onions, and there are about 4 different stages for caramelizing onions. But the more caramelized you get with the onion, the more sweet it gets. So be mindful of that when you're cooking, because if you go too far on cooking your onions, they'll caramelize, and it may add a sweetness to your dish that you did not want to happen. So now I'm going to take my seasoning and I'm going to season my sofrito. I'm just using a spoonful or 2. Time can be overpowering, but sometimes it can be overpowering to a point where it's really good. And then I'm adding it to my onions because spices need to be fried in order to really bring out the flavor. Smoked paprika is traditional in paella. Also adds to the color. Yes, I added more than probably what was required. I said 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika and a half teaspoon of thyme. I added more thyme. If you want to add more thyme, go for it. If you want to stick to the recipe, go for it. This is where you can be creative. So now I am just mixing in the spices so it incorporates with the oil, the onion, and the pepper, and the garlic. And I'm mixing it so that everything is covered. I'm gonna cook about maybe 1 to 2 minutes until it's nice and fragrant, but not fried. You don't want to burn it. The reason why we didn't put the garlic in first or after the onions is because you don't want to burn your garlic, and it can easily burn, and then it becomes bitter. Smells yummy. Okay, so you will notice that some of your spices are kind of sticking to the pan. Don't worry about it. Don't touch it. Let it be. That right there is magic and it's beautiful. And I'll tell you about it in a second. All right. Does everybody have all of their onions in and their pepper, their spices? We good, Lisa?
It's looking good for my end. 2 thumbs up.
Okay. So I told you not to worry about the burning spices at the end or the spices that are sticking. That's called the fond, F-O-N-D, F-O-N-D. That's the lusciousness and all the flavor that's part of your dish that you're going to kind of help incorporate with your wine that you're going to add to your pan. Keep your heat up. You're going to add about a cup of wine. And you can stir it a little bit. Don't scrape your pan. Don't even worry about that sticking. Make sure your heat is at least medium heat because you don't want to boil the liquid out, but you want to cook it out. You're going to cook it for about 2 to 3 minutes until it's mostly reduced. So you should have a nice, like, thick leftover. I'm not going to say broth, but it should incorporate with everything. The alcohol will cook off, but that wine is going to incorporate into all of everything that you just put into your pan, and it's going to make your vegetables wonderful. Now, at this point, this is a whole dish within itself. You can have this on top of eggs, or you can have it with beans, or you can have it with your meat, or you can put some meat on top of this with some more liquid and then throw it in the oven, and you have the start of a wonderful braised dish. All right, my wine has reduced. Now I'm going to add in my rice, and I have 1.5 cups. And I'm gonna stir for about, let it cook for about 2 to 3 minutes until everything is incorporated. Now, traditional paella, they will, or some traditional paella, I'm not gonna say all, they will actually add all the liquid in first and then add the rice in across and then kind of start incorporating the rice. They say that it kind of helps the rice cook. I thought that was actually pretty neat. I'm sure there's, some other connotations and the reasons why they do that, but I thought that was actually really cool.
Wait for me to see paella made. It's great.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun to eat. Eat it right out of the pan. All right, now, I know it's only been a minute. If your heat is too high, turn it down. If stuff is sticking, turn it down. When we cook, we have to use our eyes, our ears, and our nose.
Because everybody has different pans. I'm sure everybody's kind of cooking at a different level right now.
Yes, so if you have one of those heavy bottom pans, similar to me, then that medium high heat is good. If you have a thin bottom pan, like a paella pan, you don't want it to cook too fast at this point. Now I'm going to stir in my chickpeas that I washed and drained. I'm going to add in my tomatoes. And with my pan, since I chose not to use a paella pan, I think I'm gonna be right to the brim. And let's see. I am gonna add a touch more salt before I start cooking everything. So I have my chickpeas, I have my tomatoes. I'm gonna add the broth. This calls for 2.5 cups, so I'll go ahead and measure. So So I have, this is a quart, which is made of 4 cups. When dealing with rice and things, if you want to use a ratio method, you definitely want to measure. And a half. But you could also cook rice with a pasta method. All right, so now I need my saffron mixture. And I am gonna stir just a little bit, not a lot. We don't want to bother the bottom of our pan. Just a little bit. Because your rice is already starting to cook. The starches are already starting to cook at the bottom. So now I have my saffron broth that I'm adding. And I'm going to gently stir in. Now turn up my heat, bring it to a low boil. So between medium to medium high.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
The broth, just to check, the saffron strands actually don't go in, right?
Yeah, you can put the saffron strands in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
I did. Yeah, it's okay. They're edible. And they
Cook down too.
they'll look pretty. So I'm gonna bring this to a soft boil or a low boil, and then I'm gonna reduce the heat and cover. I'm not stirring all the way down to the rice. If you remember, I talked about the sokarat, which is forming at the bottom of the pan with the rice starches and the rice and the liquid. And if I start to stir it, it's gonna break it up, and then you're not gonna have that true paella experience. So don't stir it. All right. So once you put the liquid in, no stirring. You want that light golden crust. All right, and the low boil is when you start to see, stuff moving and being agitated, and you see small bubbles starting. You can rearrange your vegetables. This is kind of the point to which it's gonna be like presentation ready. So you wanna be mindful of that. This is a fun part. We all intently look at the pan to see if it's doing the low boil.
Because it totally helps make it go by faster.
Right? I was just talking about the pot the watch pot that never boils. So I'm starting to see agitation, and the bubbles are a little more pronounced, because you definitely want your liquid to be at a particular temperature before you cover it. I don't know. Do you all need to see what mine looks like before I start covering?
I think they're good, Chef. I think everyone's on track.
Okay. All right, so this is pretty much a low boil. It looks like I have agitation around my whole pan, but it's not rolling. It's not a rolling boil. Can you see the bubbles? So this is a low boil. So now I'm gonna cover and turn on low. All right, so we have that ready, and we're gonna go for about 15 minutes for this, okay? That'll take us to 7 o'clock. You know what I forgot to add? Bay leaf. You all didn't remind me. So I'm gonna take some of my bay leaves. Some of them are small, and I'm just gonna lay them right.
I saw Tammy on that. Tammy was on that. She got those. Let's see her do that.
So I'm gonna kind of lay them in the broth. I'm gonna do 4 because they're broken, and something about bay leaf. Some people don't like the flavor of bay leaf. I like it. I actually add more bay leaves than I'm probably supposed to for a lot of things. So what we'll do now, while we're waiting, this is covered. Make sure you have your peas. Make sure you have your artichokes because, and I drained mine. So, and these are marinated, so it's gonna add a little more flavor. I drained mine. And then we're gonna come back over here. We're gonna make the topping for the paella. And maybe we'll talk about that extra recipe.
Yes.
And if you have
Yes.
any other questions, yeah,
I like it. It works.
awesome. Let me clean up a little bit here. So the extra recipe you have is actually for a simple salad dressing, because many times people are like, well, what do you serve with something like this? Well, you know, you want something simple. If you want to stick with the vegetable theme, you know, a simple salad is perfect, beautiful. You could always, like I said, you could always add meat to this dish. That would definitely be fine. If you wanted to cook the meat in advance and serve it as a side, so your paella is more like a side dish, you can do that. If you want to do like seafood and things like that, you can also add like some shrimp to the top of this, maybe while you're adding your artichokes and peas, because shrimp and scallops and mussels, they don't take that long to cook. So you would add those at the end of the cooking, not at the beginning, because you don't want them to be overcooked and tough. Let's see. Simple salad, you can always add some types of proteins. You can add a lot to this, and you can do so much with it. But just the idea, especially with summer coming, you don't want anything that's going to make your kitchen hot. You don't want anything that creates a lot of fuss. So if you make your sofrito in advance, this can be done in a minute. Won't take long at all, just as long as it takes the rice to cook. So this is going to be a topping for our paella. And I'll talk about the salad dressing after this. So we're going to take our lemon that you have. This is a zester, microplane. But if you have a zester, you can certainly use that. Could you get the citrus squeezer? So I'm going to, remember I talked about the pith on the red pepper? This is the pith on the lemon. I'm sure you all know, but I'll say it again. Underneath the yellow part is the pith. That's the bitter part. You don't want to zest into the pith. You just want the sweetness and the tartness from your lemon skin. So I'm going to go ahead and zest the whole lemon.
There's going to be a pop quiz on this HWI, folks, on Tuesday.
Are you all in the office yet?
No, we go in, some of us go in as needed, but not fully back yet.
Got it. Okay, so this lemon is actually pretty nice and tender. So if you have a hard lemon, or if right before you start juicing it, just kind of roll it on your cutting board or on your counter to break up any more cells that need to be broken up. I have one of these handy juicers. So I cut off both ends of my lemon, just the tip of it, so the juice or the actual fruit does not show. Then I cut it in half. Take my juicer. These are really handy. If you don't have one, I urge you to get one. They make things a lot easier. You could also use your hand. Just make sure you don't get any seeds in your bowl, or you'll have to fish them out with a spoon. All right, and to this, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Yeah, 2 tablespoons. Can you hand me a spoon? Now, if you ran out, am I still on?
You're still, oh, now you're on. There, you're back, you're back.
Well, you didn't put it on do not
I
disturb.
did put it on Do Not Disturb. I don't know what, oh, you know what? I think it stopped at 7. There's a new function to Do Not Disturb. You can't just put it on anymore. Okay, so technical question.
Something else we learned. Look at that.
Yeah, with the new update on the iPhones, yeah, the Do Not Disturb does not work the same way, especially if you're in the process of a call. So I'm just gonna mix this up just a little bit, agitate it a little bit. If you have fresh parsley, at this point you would chop it. Make sure you wash it first, but chop it. If you get some of the stems in it, that's okay, but just make sure it's only the thin stems, not that thick, hearty stalk. Sometimes rolling it like a cigar almost, and then slicing it works really well. You could also tear it. This is a garnish for your paella. So however you put the parsley into this mixture, that's what it's gonna kind of look like when you're done. I don't have any fresh parsley. I'm gonna actually use my little produce in a tube. These are Italian herbs. That's okay. But I'm gonna take a couple of these. These are, again, lifesavers when you're in the kitchen, especially working from home. Our time is taken up so much, so we need to find kind of shortcuts in the kitchen so we don't get bombarded, so we don't feel overwhelmed. So it just makes cooking easier, you know, and more enjoyable. So you're not, you know, like, I have a meeting in, 10 minutes. What can I do quickly? Well, go in your oven and go in your refrigerator and see what you can whip up right quick. So these fresh herbs kind of cut down on the cooking, on the cutting and the chopping and the washing. And I'm just gonna mix it up. Your fresh parsley, use a fork or a spoon. Just mix it up because you're gonna spoon it over your paella at the end.
If you don't have fresh, could you also do dried?
You could use dried. And then if you do use dried, just do it far enough in advance, like now, so that it can rehydrate. But yes, you can use dried. If you want to add a little something to it, maybe you really, really like garlic, add a little bit more garlic powder. All right. So now I have my little lemon herb sauce and your salad dressing. So, I know a lot of us are being very health conscious about the things that we're using and, the processed ingredients and making sure that we have the most flavor, but, are being aware of what we're eating and how. So I gave you that simple salad dressing recipe because it's something that you can do very quick and easily if you don't have any salad dressing on hand, but you want to quickly make something. Just take any type of jar, either this size or, larger size. I like to use ratios. So what you can do is just use this for your ratio. I usually do yes, I know I gave you a recipe, but without using the recipe, I usually do a 1-to-3 ratio. So that's 1 part vinegar, 3 parts oil. I'll add in my salt, some lemon zest, some garlic powder or some nicely fresh minced garlic, maybe some oregano. I said salt and pepper, and a little bit of sweetener. So maple syrup, honey, sugar, and then put the cap on and shake.
And I just want to remind everybody that that's the extra recipe that Chef gave us in the folder. We don't have the ingredients in your box for that, but this is something a bit of a bonus for attending tonight.
Yeah, and then it works really well over a simple leaf lettuce salad. You could add maybe, it is spring. You can make a nice leaf lettuce with some fennel and some orange segments. That would go great with this paella. You could also simply add just olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and a nice squeeze of lemon for your salad with some salt and pepper, maybe some shredded Parmesan cheese. That would make a wonderful salad as well. So there are a lot of different things that you can use that are very simple, that they don't have to be over flavored. Less is more when it comes to cooking, but especially when it comes to the spring and summer cooking, because you really want the flavors of the foods that you're cooking to stand out and kind of live and represent on their own without being laden by heavy sauces or heavy seasonings. So, you know, if you're going to focus on your meat being heavily seasoned, let your side dishes and your salads and things kind of just breathe and be on their own and kind of live. So we got about 4 more minutes until we get to check out our sofrito, our paella with the sofrito and the vegetables. We got about 4 more minutes. So we're going to add in our peas and our chickpeas, our peas and our artichokes, and we're going to cook for about 5 to 7 more minutes. And then we're going to take a look at it and see what it looks like.
And in the meantime, I'm actually going to put in the chat Chef Alexa's family's website, eatoffart.com, for some more recipes and to kind of look into all the great work that they're doing after we're done with this. If you want
Yes.
more,
And
or
actually,
even
Lisa,
more
I
recipes.
don't have recipes on the Eat Off Art site.
Yes.
They're on my other site, which is alexajoan.com.
Okay.
So I do have mostly vegetable or plant-based recipes. I think I have I have a Peruvian chicken recipe on there. Yeah, I think that might be the only meat, but some recipes are on there. We also have a YouTube channel. The title is Eat Off Art. And that has a bit of everything that we do. So if you really want to know about us and what we do, check out our YouTube channel, see what we're up to. We have a podcast that we do almost monthly. We do live happy hours where Idris, my husband, paints, and I kind of am the MC for the night. Sometimes we'll have a guest DJ. And since everything's going a little crazy with Facebook and Instagram, we try and do VIP sessions. So, you know, you can purchase a print and then get the full experience without having to be cut off because of licensing and copyright issues on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. And I want to tell you that it's great for us to have a vegetarian option that we're cooking tonight, because it's very hard sometimes to get something very flavorful and that would have a lot of people attracted to it. And we also, you know, have been looking to do a healthy recipe, but this is a perfect recipe to have some of our folks join us tonight who haven't been able to join us before. So
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're excited.
That's so cool. And the rice is, the type of rice is really important in this dish. You can certainly make this with any type of rice, but to get that true experience, you do need that medium grain rice. Like I said, you could use arborio rice, which is risotto rice, but you'll get a creamy texture. So there is a specific rice for paella, but we're just using the medium grain because we want this accessible to everyone. And in order to do that, we need to use the ingredients and the items that, you know, that we have near us. All right, so let's see, I'm gonna get another bowl because we're gonna be slicing olives in a little bit. But I'm gonna come over here now and we're gonna take off our lid, see what we have. And I need a knife because I didn't cut open my peas like I should have. So peas, the recipe says about a half cup. We may or may not use a half cup. And all the vegetables are on top of the rice. How's it smell? Mine smells really, really good.
it looks amazing.
So I'm scattering the peas. I'm gonna take out my artichokes. I'm gonna kind of place these creatively around. Start with the 3, 6, 9, 12. And then go in between. almost like a pizza pie. And I have just enough to do that. All right. Then I'm going to turn on, put my lid back on, and cook for about 5 to 7 more minutes.
Chef, is this where you would then, if you're going to add seafood, would you put the shrimp and scallops on top of it now?
Yes, because they're only going to take about 5 to 7 minutes. And then after this, we're going to take the lid off and let it like cook a little more so we can get the bottom crispy and evaporate any other liquid that might be there.
Nice, nice.
This is our photo op moment right here. Looks amazing.
Yes. Yes.
I got a
yeah,
question.
Yep.
What do we do with the lemon juice and zest?
Did you already combine it?
With the oil?
Yep.
Not yet.
Okay, so you're going to zest your lemon, then juice it into a bowl. Add about 2 tablespoons of oil to that. And then add your fresh parsley, dried parsley, or parsley that's in a tube from the produce section of Wegmans.
Or Italian seasoning.
And then put it in, or do we keep it separate?
No, keep it separate for now. It's like a finishing sauce. So after it's all cooked, then you kind of pour it over for presentation.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. All right, so now let's go slice some olives. You can keep them whole, but if you keep them whole, they're gonna roll around. So I'm gonna drain some of the liquid out of my olive jar. Hopefully it's looking and smelling good in your kitchen. And these are Spanish olives. You could also use Castellaverne olives, which are in the recipe. The only reason why I suggested those are because they're not salty. They have a sweeter flavor to them. They're almost, I don't want to say sweet side, but it has a sweetness to it and a less briny flavor. So if you're not an olive person, you do not have to use olives, but we're simply going to cut these in half. And just enough to garnish. If you really love olives, feel free to put on as many as you like. Should have had some music playing in the background.
Spanish music would have, some flamenco would have been great.
I would not have been dancing though. Well, I probably would have been dancing. But.
To demerit, chef, to demerit. I do want to point out that the wine is also organic, and that's actually in the write-up of the wine, but I thought since we're trying to be healthy here, that's a nice thing to know.
And the organic wines are really nice, especially if you're a person who tends to get headaches, like after red wine. The organic wines, the tannins are not as strong, and they actually don't leave that headache. So there are, in addition to environmental benefits, you know, there are definitely health benefits to having organic wine. My olives, I'm just putting in a bowl next to my lemon. Cleaning up just a little bit here. Wash my hands.
That's good. Everyone looks busy cooking away.
I you know I had to check it out, Lisa, just to make sure. I love it. I see some aprons on.
I see some photos being taken. That's a good sign.
I love it.
Yes. Thank you, Miranda.
We had a makeshift lid, so we actually have a little video of the unveiling if you need that, Lisa.
I totally want that. It's fantastic.
It went everywhere. It was a lot of fun.
Sarah, Miranda, how are you doing over there?
Oh, we're doing well.
Great.
We're having fun here. The pictures
All that
to
matters.
my family, so.
Oh, excellent.
Let's see. All right. I think we're in good shape. I think we might be right at maybe about 7:15 or so, maybe 7:30.
That's good. And you know, it's Women's History Month, and I do have to point out that 3 of our women scientists that at the Institute are here on this, doing this cooking class. Go girls. And so received amazing funding to do COVID-19 research. So
Wow.
HWI is doing, and thanks to all of you for helping to support that.
Thank you. That's fabulous. That's fabulous. Yeah, these are definitely interesting times that we are in. Okay, I'm coming back over to my pot. I know all your vegetables have probably risen to the top. You may see some of your rice peeking through. If not, that's okay. I'm just going to agitate a little bit to see how much liquid is actually. Oh, that looks good. See that little rice? I just made a little hole just to see what the rice looked like and to check it to make sure that it's a good texture. Little al dente, but that's okay because we're still going to let it cook for a little bit, right? So at this point, I've checked it. I'm gonna push my artichokes down just a little bit so they're not really floating. And I'm gonna turn my heat off. I'm gonna cover and let it sit for 10 more minutes. That's it. You all gonna tell me what you're gonna have with your rice?
Wait, did you say heat off?
Heat off at this point.
Okay.
Yep, because now we want it to steam.
Okay.
So keep your lid on, turn your heat off. And this is when you get your nice glass of wine, turn on some music while I'm not looking and just, have a little dance party for about 5-10 minutes. And I see some folks under 21, so, maybe just get a nice glass of sparkling water.
Chef, they've already been drinking. I don't.
Yeah, we've already opened the wine to add to the rice. So
I forgot who I was working with.
We're sipping it, Chef.
I forgot who I was working with.
We're not here to socialize, Chef. Come on.
I love it. That's right. You all did talk about the wine earlier. I can't wait to open it. I'm really excited to taste it. Because like I said, the wine from the last class, it was amazing. It was
Diana, how is it?
It's lovely. It's lovely. And it's from Galicia, right? So
Yes.
yeah. It's interesting because in Portugal we have another grape that is very similar, which is Alvarinho. We also make a similar white wine that is also about 13% like this one. It's great. So great choice.
So is it a nice dry or is it a crisp dry? What is it like?
Hang on.
There's a little bit of mineral. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dry mineral,
Dry, but not super dry.
but not like
Chrissy?
pucker your lips kind of dry.
Okay. I like that.
And
I
I
like
gotta give all the credit to City Wine Merchant, Eric and his team. We work with them with the recipes and the chefs we have, and they just do a great job pairing the wine with what we're cooking, and I give them all the credit for the wine.
I love it. Well, they've been making some great picks when I've been on this call, so that's amazing.
Absolutely. I just want to remind everybody there's one last class this spring, which is Monday, April 19th, and I put the link in our little chat here. Chef Vinny from Prescott Provisions, which is a rock star. He's just amazing. He's going to be doing a wonderful recipe for us. So there's still availability, and encourage you all to sign on for that.
Do you know what you all are making next time?
It's roasted scallops and mussels and ton of mushrooms. Oh my God, Hunt of the Woods mushrooms. You know, it's Vinny. He's gotta bring it up to the top.
Gosh, I love
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
See, we're getting ready with the mushrooms. That's a wonderful thing. I mean, I love mushrooms. Mushrooms actually have a lot of vitamin D in them too, which is important to have during this COVID pandemic time. So mushrooms are great, especially for plant-based meals. Having
Yes.
some protein, but also having something that can give you kind of that satiated flavor or feeling similar to meat, without the fat, without the animal protein. But the mushrooms do a great job of that. I'm telling you.
Stuffed portobello with some vegetables, pretty darn good.
Yes, yes. See, maybe we should do that next time too.
I think that's a good idea. I like that idea.
Ooh, yeah, with some braised short ribs if we're doing meat.
If we're doing meat, if not, you know, because I was looking for the healthier option for the spring menu, and actually there's a great one with just all the different kinds of vegetables that was amazing.
Yes.
Our son, they take a look at.
Yeah. Well, I did do a plant-based stew. And instead of the beef, I used like chunks of portobello mushroom. So the whole process was the same. I still used the onion and the potato and the carrots. And I sauteed it first on the oven to just get some caramelization on all the vegetables. I added my red wine. I cooked all the vegetables separate so they could get their nice flavor and season them. Then I combined them with the wine and liquid. I covered it with tin foil. I put in the oven and I let it braise for maybe 30 minutes to about 50 minutes. And it kind of gave you that feeling of the pot roast or the stew, because you had the texture of the mushroom, but then you had that nice rich broth, and you could always serve it with rice or some type of pasta, even though there are potatoes in it.
Sure.
But yeah, it was just the best dish.
I think you need to put that up on your website so that these folks can go and look at that.
I may have to. There's so many recipes that I haven't put up on the website. I think about them, and to me, it's like a no-brainer. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just whip this up, and so I will work towards putting
It's your
more
spring
recipes.
cleaning project. Spring cleaning, getting them off of your files.
Yes. One of my mini springtime recipe tasks. Hopefully you all had a chance to open up your windows today to get some nice fresh air in.
Absolutely. Beautiful out all day. I even got a
How's
little sun.
everybody looking? Huh?
Everybody's looking good, I think. How are we doing on our stovetop there, Chef?
It's looking good. It's steaming, so I'm not going to agitate it too much. We got about 5 more minutes, and then we'll take it out. We're going to check the bottom of it to see if we've created a layer. We're not going to disturb it much, but we're just going to kind of try and lift it with either like a little knife or a little spoon or something like that. But before we lift it, we want to make sure there's no liquid. We want to make sure it's kind of all sec or dry, because if there is liquid in it and we lift and there is a crust, then that liquid is going to pool into the crust and kind of ruin everything that you just did. So we got to be very careful how we do the next step, so we don't, mess with the integrity and the crust, because we want to keep that nice golden crust. So I'm going to get some tools together. Let's see what else. I got to see what else we're going to have here. No, you're good for now. So I have a little offset spatula, but you can also use a butter knife or a little spoon just to make sure you have that on hand. Let's see. And then make sure, who was asking me about the lemon juice and the zest? Was that Rory?
Yep. Right.
Okay. Make sure that's stirred up and ready. Make sure you have your olives sliced. And then we'll be ready to go. About 4 minutes.
So this is wine break time.
Wine break time.
Part 2.
If you have any left.
If you don't, we don't judge.
No judgment here. Definitely a no judgment zone.
So Chef Tammy, who is on here, she actually has framed all of the recipes. She's taken all of these classes with us. She's framed all the recipes and put them up in her kitchen. So
I love them.
Her kitchen, right, Tammy?
Yes, I love them.
That
So
is
cool.
amazing. I love that idea.
Yeah, it's the coolest thing ever. I love it. I enjoy it so much.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And they're all coordinated in that beautiful,
I know.
metallic
They're
paper.
so pretty.
That's a brilliant idea. I love that.
Thank you. I just enjoy it. I love it. I love it.
And it looks like a little quiet over there tonight, but sometimes she has her girlfriends over there cooking with her, and
Yeah.
it's quite a
Yeah, Duke's on the little quiet side tonight.
Duke, you're a little tired there,
Oh.
Duke.
I remember Tammy from the last class now.
Yeah, with my sister-in-law. We had fun.
Oh, good. That is great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, let's see.
Sure.
All right.
It's fine. Just stay put.
Okay, Lisa, I got the watch pot syndrome going on
Okay,
now. I just want
don't
to
do
lift
that.
my lid and I'm trying not to.
Step away from the pot, ma'am.
Step away from the pot. Now, one thing about paella, we have a tendency to want to eat things right out of the oven, piping hot. Paella is actually supposed to be eaten kind of like tepid or room temperature. So, let it sit for a little bit, let it rest. Similar to if you made like a whole chicken or a whole roast, you don't want to slice it right away because all those juices are going to pour out. It's kind of the same thing with the paella. You just kind of want to let it hang out for a little bit. Doesn't have to be piping hot. You want to be able to kind of eat it family style too. So, just let it cool off. The same thing with bread. If you ever make fresh bread, do not, you may be tempted, do not cut fresh bread right out of the oven. That's a big no-no, because if you do, you're going to dry out the bread. Bread should actually come to, a room temperature, almost cool point before you slice into it to keep the integrity of the crumb and the flavor and the moistness of the bread. And on that note, I think we're about at 10 minutes. So I'm going to lift up my lid and poke around just a little bit.
All right, so what you're looking at there.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, it looks good.
Can you show us what you're doing? Could you show us
Yep.
the pan, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Sorry to be a pest.
Oh, not a pest, no way. So I just poked around just to make sure all the liquid was kind of gone. Can you see? When I make a little well, just a very small well, no liquid pool. So I know all the liquid is absorbed to the rice, into the rice. I took out a little kernel just to taste it, to make sure it was, I don't want to say creamy, but no longer al dente. I also put my knife at the bottom of the pan And I already know that there's no crust. So what I'm going to do is turn up the heat with the cover off. Now, you do not have to do this. You can just have it just as is, and it's perfectly fine. If you want to try and achieve that socrat at the bottom of the pan, at this point, you would turn on the heat for maybe medium heat or so. But there's a fine line, because if you do it too long, you can burn it. So either it's not going to be, you know, caramelized, or it will be caramelized to perfection, or it will be burnt. So let's not burn it. So we'll turn on the heat to about medium high. And what this is doing is just drying out that rice at the bottom to create that crust. And you'll hear a little probably sizzle or something like that. Toasting scent. And it'll start to crispen up a little bit. Yep, so I hear my bubbles going. So there's still a little more liquid. So those bubbles are, you know, evaporating that liquid. And I just want to do this for maybe about 2 to 4 minutes. Not long, 2 to 4 minutes. On medium heat. We're going to listen to the sound, listen for the sizzle, and the smell of toasted rice. Now, some rice dishes, doing this and then turning it out onto like this big platter, you could also do that. If your sauerkraut is really good at the bottom, then it will create this beautiful dome that's brightly colored with the saffron and the smoked paprika. Poking around just a little bit, not too much. It's almost like music, listening to all these bubbles and this heat. And you might hear a little bit of a sizzle. And I'm almost at the 2-minute mark. So I'm probably gonna stop mine at 2 minutes. Or 3. Yeah, there we go. I'm hearing the sizzle now. If you want to turn it up just a little bit, again, be very, very careful. You don't want to burn it. Okay. Yep, how'd we do, guys? Anybody going longer than 2 minutes?
Yep, thumbs up. Looking at a lot of thumbs up over here.
Okay. All right. So at this point, your paella is done. Congratulations. Woo. So what you want to do is, at this point, you can go ahead and drizzle your olives on top. And you're going to take that awesome dressing. You can do it now, or you can wait until right before it's served. You don't have to do this part now. You can wait to drizzle your lemon juice on it. But you just take it, make sure it's stirred together.
Some people are doing it. Some people aren't doing it.
Okay. Let me know when you're ready.
I think it's looking good, Chef.
Okay. So we're going to take that lemon juice, mix it up a little bit with the spoon. Take it by the spoonful and just drizzle around. Keep a little extra on the side in case you want to add a little more. Smells so good with the lemon and the parsley and the herbs. And there you have it. A homemade vegetable paella.
Sarah Miranda, it looks amazing.
Let's see.
Show yours again, Sarah.
Oh, it looks amazing.
Nice work.
It looks
The
awesome. I
bugs,
can't wait
yours
to eat it.
What'd you say?
It looks awesome. We went for the randomized artichokes though. It's the math in me.
It's all
And that
good.
is an artistic creation within itself.
And the bubs looks amazing as well. I'm looking at your
Oh,
screen
look
right
at
now. It
that.
looks
Beautiful.
unbelievable.
Thank
I,
Ooh.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It looks amazing, everyone.
You
How
were
many
awesome,
people-
Alexa.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You know, I always, once Lisa told me, don't go too fast. I'm like, okay,
Oh, it was perfect.
good. Now I hope it tastes amazing. I hope you have achieved a little bit of the crust, if not the full crust at the bottom. And I certainly hope you're gonna make this dish again.
And how many people, is this the first time you've ever made paella? Hands up on that one. Oh, a lot of people. All right. We've entered into new territory.
Oh, yes. And like I said, this is really an awesome dish. You can really get creative with it. You can add some things to it. If you roasted some chicken the day before, throw it on top that last 5 to 7 minutes and, you know, add that into the meal. The seafood we already talked about. If you have any chorizo or something like that, I would probably cook the chorizo first to get a nice crust on it. You know, that nice, greasy, crispy crust, and then serve it on top. You could always, if you were to use chorizo or sausage or something like that, I would cook the chorizo the very first thing so that you can render the fat from it, and then use that fat to cook the onions and the peppers and the mushrooms and the garlic in. But, you know, have the chorizo off to the side and add it in the last 5 to 7 minutes. Yeah. And that's what we got.
Well, thank you so much, Chef Alexa, for your time. And thank you all for your support of HWI. We can't do what we do without your support. So we appreciate it very much. And please send pictures our way because we love to post them up on our social media and let people see what they missed. Because
Yes.
And we look forward to hopefully seeing you in April with Chef Vinny from Prescott Provisions. And you know how to follow Chef Alexa from here. And I thank you for your time, my friend.
Thanks.
Take care, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you all.
Awesome.
You're very welcome. Thank you. I hope it tastes great.
I'm sure it's going to. It smells awesome.
It does.
Thank you so much. We had fun and we're looking forward to eating it.
Thank you so much.
My daughter says thank you as well. She was
Thank you.
learning to cook.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. I hope you had fun.
I did. Thanks for doing this.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Stay safe, my friend.
Bye-bye.